Okay.
Do you accept?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Stephen.
Hi. Good to see you.
So it's yeah, good to see you. It's world premiere day. You've had a busy week, and you are in the middle of a busy week. What's going on for you?
Yes. Well, I'm in Cincinnati right now, about to perform the Billy Child saxophone concerto with the orchestra here, and also play pictures at an exhibition on the second half. But also had a world premiere of a piano piece that I wrote yesterday. So it's a little bit crazy, but very excited. But I just wish I could be there, um,
Yeah, I'm
in
in
Chicago
Chicago.
this week. Yeah.
Another CSO.
Yes.
You're with one, and I'm with the other. It's pretty cool. We're both soloists, and you wrote a piece that's an encore for me to play. I just
Yeah.
wanted to ask a couple. I'm because we've talked about it a little bit, but I'm actually also curious. I'm not just staging the question. Um, so when you play an encore, what do you look for in an encore? And did that change what you were thinking of for this piece?
Mm. Well, for me personally, I like to play things that are just beautiful and lyrical because that's what I like to do. I anytime there are fast notes, I just get scared. So I like to play simple things for an encore, which is why early in the process of writing this piece, I asked you, like what do you like to do in an encore? Or what
Mhm,
does it mean to you? Because I feel like it's such a special moment, sort of
mhm.
like you were saying, and um, but for me, I like to just keep it simple because I'm already nervous enough for the for the concerto. I'm just like, let's just play something nice and pretty.
Relaxing. Yeah,
Yes,
like
relaxing.
a zone you can land in, right?
Yes.
And what did we
Yeah.
conclude? We concluded that the encore is sort of an encapsulation of the experience or like a wrapping up of the experience, but also something that has its own unique character. Was that where we landed?
Yeah. One of the things I really remember you saying was that you feel like it's like a moment for the audience. And I was thinking about that a lot in writing this piece, and like especially at the end, like giving the audience a second to just like enjoy the beautiful sound that you'll be making, and
Hmm.
something um pretty to hear after so much music in the concert.
I love playing it. I was practicing it yesterday on stage. All the lights were out in the hall, but they had the ghost light on because the orchestra
Mhm.
rehearsal had finished. And one of the musicians turned out was so captivated by it that he just stayed around and he was listening. He's like, I love how
Oh
this
wow.
goes here and that goes there. And it rings really beautifully in the hall. So I feel like it's going to create that moment. Do you want to tell a little bit about the piece itself? Because I can describe
Sure,
it, I
I'd
can
love
say a
to.
story, but maybe we can start with what it is, and then we can get work our way back into the story of how it came to be.
Yeah. So uh, I like to say it's a variations and theme on a lullaby that my mother actually wrote for me when I was, a baby. And it
So she's the only one who sings this.
she's the only one who
You're the
sings it.
only baby
And
who had it.
yes.
Your
Yeah, and
song.
she wrote her own lyrics and everything. And um so I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to use that little melody um, for a piece for you. And so basically, it starts with some shenanigans, I would say. Like some different kinds of configurations of uh, um, whether it being running 16th notes, and then we go to some sort of staccato kinds of double attacks and things like that, and then sextuplets faster, and then it reaches a climax, and then sort of um, calms down from there, much like I imagine um, a mother might feel with an overeager child, and trying to calm them down.
A kid with the
Um,
zoomies. They need to get their
right.
energy out, but then they also need to have some fun, and then they need to calm down.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, um, Yeah, that's basically what the piece is. You know, I could probably talk for days and days, but that's basically what it is.
And there's the underpinning as well, so there's a bit of a chaconne
Oh
element
yeah.
too.
Yeah, yeah. So that part, this idea of a chaconne or passacaglia, ground bass, whatever you want to call it, they all have their sort of peculiarities of what they are. But um,
What would you call it?
I settled on ground bass because both chaconnes and passacaglias have the connotation of being in 3/4, and
Oh,
this is triple. Yeah, yeah. So, historically speaking, so I'm just thinking of it as a grounding bass line, basically. And that really came just from playing the melody at the piano and trying to figure out what bass line would go well with it. And there's this technique from a friend, I guess, of mine, that he talks about this waterfall bass technique in which the bass is just descending by half step. And he talks about, like, if you have this bass note, then what could the chord be? And then going through all of those kinds of things. So that was a little bit of the process of how that came about. But basically, that stays throughout the entire piece.
mhm.
So that's what maybe audience members can listen to and sort of um, bring their ear towards as they're listening.
Well, the melody that your mom made up is really beautiful. So, composers in the family.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
really, really beautiful. The title, do you want to introduce it?
Oh yeah. Sorry, the title
Now that,
is
but the title will make sense too because people now know the
right.
story.
Yeah, the title is Through My Mother's Eyes. And we sort of went back and forth on a couple of different titles, but I think actually that encapsulates the feeling of the piece and the purpose of the piece the best. So I'm
Yeah,
gonna
for sure.
stick with that.
It's really, really good. And I was also curious. We talked in the first conversation we had after you sent me the score, or is it a score if it's just one? Yeah, it's a score. Um,
Yeah.
after you sent me the music, we talked about the way the techniques breathe, and then we also got a chance to meet in person, and I could play it, and you could describe a little bit of when you play on sax. Can I call it sax? Is that too
Yeah.
familiar?
Yes, that's
Okay.
fine.
We play on saxophone.
Yeah.
You can call it fiddle if you want. It's fine. When you play on saxophone, that the breath is a sort of a different way of um, it draws a slightly different phrasing than a
Mhm,
slur does on a bow.
mhm,
But knowing what you explained about the feeling of playing actually helps me with the cascades of the phrasing because it helps me stop being violinistic about it and be more
mhm,
gestural without it being
mhm,
abstract. It's a because
mhm,
I play a lot by like feeling and intuition. And so if I know the feeling or intuition or the emotional intention, I can get there in my own way. But as you've heard a little bit more of me playing it, although I've been a little bit sparing in the last few days because I
yeah,
want to let it marinate.
yeah.
Is there anything that feels like different about violin playing these lines than you had imagined? Because you have experience writing for violin, but in an
Mhm.
encore setting where it's solo violin.
Yeah, it's different, but in a lovely way. It's like I don't even, when I write something, I don't necessarily want it to sound only how I was originally thinking of it. Um, Mainly, and that's something that's actually kind of new for me because being a performer first, really, I was often writing for myself, and I think I made the mistake sometimes of thinking that my interpretation would carry the composition, basically.
Hmm.
And now I have a much better understanding that the composition has to carry itself and leave room, for interpretation. And so um, I think some of the things that I was explaining about how it feels for me, I could hear that you were incorporating some of those things, but then doing it in a way that was just so much more organic, on the violin. So just taking the general spirit of what it was. And so this is a long way of saying I love how it sounds now better than even what I was thinking. So like it has more, it's a little bit more expansive, I think, than I was originally thinking. And I love that. And I think it will work especially well in a hall, where your sound can really emanate and get out into the hall. So I love how it's sounding.
Well, I like playing around with resonance inside the instrument, and sometimes it takes time to get the resonance flowing. And
Mhm.
so the luxury of having a bow is I can just use more of it
Yeah.
as opposed to breath.
Yeah.
If I want to hold a note
Yeah.
longer, I can just change the bowing and it's fine. Um,
Yeah.
and there's also a sort of rhythm to technique with shifts and landing and coordinating all these different aspects. So the piece, when you would play, if you were to play it on saxophone, it would have one set of parameters. And then me playing on a violin, it has another set of parameters. But what you said about writing something that would play itself in a sense, I think it would work on different instruments. So I think just different approaches still work because the structure is is clear
Mhm.
and the gesture of the storytelling is clear. It's
Mhm.
it's really great to play. I'm so excited for people to get to know it. Should we talk a little bit about, we've had a kind of unconventional way of arriving at a piece
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we were in touch before. We met on, I guess, social media on Instagram. Was it an Instagram thing or was it through friends or like did we
You
have
know,
a phone call? How did
I
this
think
happen?
I think the first time we met was actually on a Zoom thing. You
Yes.
remember that? Yeah,
Yes.
that that Zoom panel, I think for Sphinx.
Yes, this is
Yeah,
modern, performer
right.
community.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But yeah, since then, I still remember you shared one of my like Instagram posts or something, and I was like calling my friends and like, oh my gosh, you
And we had a few
know.
phone calls and yeah, life career stuff is it's interesting. I think being a
Yeah.
soloist, no matter what your instrument is a really unique lifestyle and it has a
Mhm.
whole bunch of different factors that it's helpful to be able to communicate about these things, I think,
Yeah.
instead of just living individual satellite lives. Um,
Right.
and then you came to my Bach and Lincoln Center, and we were trying to locate each other, but we kept being in
Yes.
different places post concert. And then
Yeah.
you were in my area, in the Boston area, and we finally got to meet in person. And then that's when we brainstormed the piece because I'd already written you a message like, would you consider writing me an encore? Because I'd followed your work, the piece you wrote for, is it Trio for the meditation description?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well,
The
technically a quartet
illustration.
if you
Okay,
count
okay.
the meditation teacher, yeah.
Yes, yes. And then some other things that I saw, some other performances of yours, and I just was really curious to see how you would interpret solo violin. So, yeah, so I'd sent you a message and I didn't expect that you would be able to write something so quickly. And I think it was within the last month and a half almost, or the last month. And here we
Yeah.
are at the premiere.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't expect that I'd be able to write it this quickly either, but basically when you asked me, um, I could not do anything else. Like I couldn't think of anything. Like I would literally wake up in the morning like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna write? What's it gonna be? And
It's one of
and
those things that
so
grabs you. It just,
yes,
yeah.
exactly. And so I started sketching immediately. And the piece that we ended up with, or that we get to have now, is not the first idea that I had. And so yeah, it once you asked, it was going to happen soon, basically.
I love when something catches a moment and then it just you kind of can keep that momentum going because
Right.
then it's about the freshest premiere I've ever done because
Mm,
it's a solo encore so I can play it anytime it's ready. So
right.
the fact that we talked about it so recently, like the idea happened so recently and here it is, premiere
Mhm.
day. and it feels so natural, like it's been here for a really long time.
Yeah.
But that's because the moment there wasn't this sort of stop and start, a deadline 2 years later, and then what are we going to do? And then it sits, and then you learn it, and then you get back to it. It's really just the flow of creation, and
Mhm.
it's really cool. I'm excited to just ride this wave.
Yeah, me too. And I just have to say thank you for the gift of that sort of electric current of inspiration. It's exciting to be excited, about something. So
Oh,
I'm really uh, very touched and excited for the premiere.
aw. And I should mention also, I'm gonna bounce some thanks over to the Chicago Symphony for commissioning this and hosting the premiere. And I'm, as artist in residence here, I always like to incorporate a commission into an artist residency. And I'm so glad that this is what we get to do over here. And you have a Chicago connection, so
Oh yeah,
coincidentally.
yeah. So I went to Northwestern for my graduate degree, and now I do some teaching there every now and then, and so I have a lot of school spirit for Northwestern. So go Cats.
And one other tiny little detail that is just it just occurred to me yesterday in rehearsal is the other pieces I'm playing on the program are the Raltavara Two Serenades. So it's the US premiere of that. And that quotes from Raltavara's opera House of the Rising Sun, which is about two sisters. So a lot of the melodies that I'm playing are based in arias sung by these two sisters. And that's a very long story. I won't get into it. Like someone can look it up. We can look up the plot.
Mhm,
The other piece I'm playing is Carmen Fantasy, which is all
mhm,
the arias, Carmen, all like the not all of them, but a lot of the most popular arias that Carmen herself sings in the Sarasate version from the
mhm,
opera. And then so that's two vocal female protagonist situations. And
mhm.
then this piece is based off of your mother's song that she created, and it's just so interesting. It's like all these
Yeah,
voices
yeah,
in
yeah.
the same program.
I
um
love that. I love
yeah,
that.
it's just how fate works sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
We'll be talking off screen too, but yes,
Okay.
here we finish the interview.
Yes.